Hello, and welcome to the Minority Reports podcast and digital series. I am your host, Mona Sheikh. Very excited to be here today. I actually have an absolutely wonderful guest who's going to be joining us shortly that I'm very, very excited about. How is everyone's week going? Okay, my week has been busy-ish. It's very strange that when I'm not busy, I feel a little lost. So I don't know if you guys feel this way, but hello, James. Waiting for pizza. Okay. James said, I'm waiting for a pizza delivery, eating pizza and listening to Mona's rants. Life doesn't get any better. You're so sweet, James. I think just for that, I should order you another pie of pizza just for that comment alone. Hiya, Tim. Nice to see you. I am waiting for our guest, but while we are waiting, I want to talk to you guys about a little bit briefly about who the guest is. So our guest today is going to be a fantastic councilwoman who I had the pleasure of becoming friends with last year. This woman is a trailblazer. Okay, she's just killing it out there. I'm so very proud and excited, and the fact that we share the same heritage. We're both Pakistani, and we're both like brown Pakistani women out there doing our thing. So without further ado, I'm going to invite our wonderful guest, Councilwoman Farrah Khan. Welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So nice to see your beautiful face.
Good to see you too. It's been a while.
It has been. Why does last year feel like eternity ago?
I know. It's things have changed drastically.
It has just been insane. How are you and your family holding up during the pandemic?
Everyone's well. We're adjusting to our new lives, staying at home and finding those nooks in our home where we can all be on the computer doing our thing. So it's a different time, but it's also a fun time.
Are you do you ever kind of go through this where you're just like, oh my God, I just need to like get out of the house, just take a walk? Like, are you having those moments?
I mean, you miss people. You miss being out and about, and especially in a public setting, we're so accustomed to jumping from one event to another, meeting new people, where now it's all interaction virtually, and so whenever there is an opportunity to be out there, it's really nice.
I love it. No, I'm sure Orange County is and Irvine, where you are. I mean, it's a beautiful city. But Orange County took a pretty big hit. I mean, the cases were spiking up a lot in Orange County.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think throughout Orange County now we're seeing our numbers go down. But not only that, but us as a city, I think we were one of the very few cities that actually had a better control of this virus.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful. That's which is a good thing, which you want, which you totally want. I know that last year you bestowed us the honor of showing up to the Desi Girls Night Out comedy show that we did, which was a sold out show, and turns out that LA Times was there and they briefly interviewed you and what your thoughts were. How was your experience? I don't think we ever got a chance to talk about that.
Of the show?
Yes.
Yeah, I was cracking up the whole time. So it was good. I enjoyed seeing the diverse comedians that were up there and just, having a good time with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was something else. I was pretty shocked because I was emceeing the Women's March in San Francisco, and I was watching the ticket sales come in, and I thought it was a mistake. So I was just like, is this some kind of a mistake? Like, what's happening? Because I was like, oh, maybe if we get like 80 people, I'll be happy. And like turned out to be like close to 300 people showed up. So that was pretty insane. No, it was, yeah, I missed that so much. Farrah, I can't even tell you. I miss being on stage. I miss holding a mic in my hand. Like I miss all of that. Now you must be working from home since the pandemic hit, right? Like you're not really.
Pretty much. I mean, outside of just showing up for city council meetings, I think those are the only times that I'm actually at City Hall. Otherwise, like my staff and everyone has been shifted home. And at the same time, we have little photo ops here and there. or mass giveaways that we participate in, movie night outs. But other than that, it's all stay at home.
Right, right, absolutely. I mean, life is just so drastically different. I mean, I was reading up about you, and I've known you for a while, and just kind of reading up about you and your husband own a small business. You guys are, did you, what was your kind of inspiration to get into politics and become a councilwoman? What was that? Was it your husband? Was it you? You were like, you know what? I can do a better job at this. I can do this.
It was actually quite organic. I just found when I was working as as an executive director for a nonprofit, I found myself getting more involved in local politics and local government. And from there, found myself getting more involved on what was on the agenda, the topics that they were talking about. And, a lot of it affects us directly. And so I kept showing up at council meetings, speaking up during public comments and voicing my concern, getting other parents and other community members to come in and voice their concerns as well. And so, people started reaching out and saying, you're over there telling them what to do. Why don't you run for it and do it?
Right.
And so for me, it was very difficult because I never imagined being on the forefront of politics. I liked working behind the scenes.
Right.
But I think it was a very important move because the first time that I ran in 2016 was an eye opener for me in not only politics, but also everything that goes on behind the scenes and how we, as a community, as South Asians, are viewed. When people tell you that with a name like mine, I was unelectable,
Wow.
or Irvine wasn't ready for so much diversity, it kind of opens your eyes to wait a minute, what do you mean?
Sorry, who's saying this? Who's saying this, Farrah? Who's saying this?
People in the party, you've got party politicians that are saying this. You've got, if I would make phone calls to our residents, this one conversation I had with a resident here, he was like, oh, I really like what you stand for. I just wish you were lighter shade. And I was just like, whoa, that's interesting.
What? To your face?
On the phone, yeah.
What did you say? What did you say about?
But everything that you liked about me comes out because of who I am, not because of the tone of my skin. And he just kind of laughed it off, and that was it. And it's you realize how real racism is. You realize how much more work we have to do.
Right.
We talk about having a seat at the table.
Yes.
And we're basically clawing our way to get to that seat. But there's not enough of us out there. And so it's very important for people to understand, that there are people that understand this. There are people that think, oh my God, if she could do it, I could do it. And I'm like, great, do it. But then you're going to run through that whole horse and pony show that I had to go through.
Sure.
To where you are. And, for my first run, I didn't make it. I actually lost my race. And it wasn't until the second time that I tried that I actually won my seat. So it's quite the...
What do you think was different from the first time to the second time? People just became a little bit more accustomed to you. They just got to know you more. They got to understand better as to what your kind of stance was and things.
Yeah, so it was not only getting to know me as well, but I think for myself, it was me becoming a little more stronger. The first time around, because negativity, you're going to get negative ads. You're going to get people saying things about you that aren't true. They're going to lie about you. And that really was so hurtful in the first round. I was like, oh my gosh, how could people do this? How can someone be out there blatantly lying about who I am, or, putting out mailers that were so negative, and social media ads that were so negative. And so the second time around, I think because I had gone through it once, it was like, all right, bring it on. Let's do this.
Got it.
You kind of adjust yourself. You kind of realize, okay, this is the reality of politics. It's dirty. It shouldn't be, but it is. And so you either need to know how to fight and get into that fight, or else you just sit back and don't do anything.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
That time it was like, I'm fighting on. So
yeah. Yeah. I mean, now you have kids. You have two kids. You have four, right? 4 boys?
No, I'm down to 2. So so I just have my 2 that are 16 and 18.
Got it. And like, how was your family feeling about, that must have been a thing for them too, to see like all these kind of negative ads towards you, because, you're your mom and your wife, like, it's just like, oh my God, what are they saying? Like, What was it like for them?
So I think I really tried to keep my family separate from the whole politics
Mm,
and the political side of things. Because I didn't want them getting the short end of the stick, getting
sure.
targeted. And so I made sure that, they were very separated from my campaign and my personal life. And I continued that as I'm in public office and I'm campaigning again.
Yeah.
It's, hands off my family. You want to target me, you can target me. And I kind of keep them separated. But,
Yeah.
they saw what was going on, and I explained to them what was
Mm.
going on, and they understand how politics is. It's funny because this is the third time I'm running now, and I feel like my kids are even more seasoned than before because they were little when I first started in 2015,
Yeah.
and 5 years later,
Yeah.
they're like, "Well, all right, we know how this works."
They're like these woke teenagers.
Yeah, yeah. I
They're
mean,
these.
like my son was what, 11? They were 11 and 13 when I first ran, and
Wow.
they're 16 and 18 now. So they've grown up a bit.
Yeah, just a tad bit, Farrah, just a tad bit. I mean, now, did you not make history by being the first being elected councilwoman for Irvine?
I was actually the first woman of color, the first Asian woman to be elected on the council in
Wow.
Irvine,
Wow.
and actually the first Muslim woman to be elected in Southern California.
Wow. So you made history on three fronts.
Yeah.
And that is so incredible. I know that I came and attended this event where you were there, and Ali Sajjad was there, and I saw the amount of support you were getting from the South Asian community that is in Irvine. I mean, they just like love you. They just absolutely love and adore you. And I think what really touched me was that there was no difference between Indian or Pakistanis or Bangladeshi. It was like we're just all brown. Like we're just all gonna just come out and support
That
Farah.
is so important because
Yeah.
I think the reason that I have such a close bond with everyone is because of the work I've been doing. I mean, they've seen me year after year, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. If you have an issue, I'm going to help you navigate it, and I'm going to help you no matter how. I'll find a way. And for me, it's never. I mean, I grew up here. I came to the U.S. when I was 3, and so for me, I know that there's a part of my family that's Pakistani. I was actually born in Lahore, and there's a part of my family that's from India, and there's some that migrated, some that didn't migrate, and so when you know your history that well from back then, you kind of understand that we're all the same people. At
Yes.
the end of the day, that's who we are. We've got some boundaries that are dividing us, but that
Yes.
doesn't mean that we have to be divided when we're amongst one another. And then for me, at the local level, that's why local politics is so important because you're serving everyone. It's
Mhm.
not like you're at the federal level where you're dealing with international issues. You're dealing with local issues. So it doesn't matter if you just came to Irvine yesterday or if you've been here for 50 years.
That's right.
You're going to be treated equally here.
Yeah. I mean, is it not true that Orange County went blue? Or did I? Yeah, Orange County's blue now, isn't it?
It is particularly when you look at central to northern Orange County. The
Mhm.
South Orange County areas are still a bit red or purplish, but definitely the central and north have gone very blue.
Right, which is amazing. I mean, when I come to Irvine, I mean, it's like mostly Asian people and South Asian people most of the time that I see, which is amazing. I mean, diversity. I feel like anywhere is a good thing. It's not a detriment. It's absolutely, and not to mention, the amount of college education, the amount of college educated Asian, South Asians with, high paying jobs, just very ambitious, doing really well for themselves is really fantastic. Now you mentioned that you have a third campaign that you're running, which is your bid, dun, da, 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 to be the mayor of Irvine. I am so excited for this bid. Please tell us a little bit more because we're going to dive into the current mayor, Shay, who had some very not very nice things to say. And I know she made attacks at you as well. So what kind of motivated you to be like, you know what, I can do a better job being the mayor of Irvine?
I wasn't planning on, because my term was about 4 years, and so I was hoping to just sit this election cycle out and kind of watch everyone else. But I think, for the past 18 years, I've been working with our current mayor, who was appointed, and I found myself compromising all the time, to get things done, right? And that's who I am. Even though she likes to paint me as a divisive person, I've always been one that has gone out and been like, all right, this is an issue that I'm passionate about. How can I get you there? How can I make sure that you're on board as well? Making sure that my colleagues were educated on all the topics that I was bringing forward. But it really changed, with not only COVID-19 hitting, when, at the national level, we were hearing, people talk about the coronavirus as a Chinese virus. And our local community was just like, we're seeing hate incidents, we're seeing hate crimes, and our mayor was just oblivious to it. And so for me, it was very important, that I put out a resolution, and I authored a resolution against hate towards our Chinese and Asian American communities, because that's who we are as a city. We will support everyone that is here and not tolerate any kind of hate. And so that happened. And then, of course, the BLM protests started happening. Yes. And in our city, we had quite a few, but all of them, according to our own police, were very peaceful and organized with no incidents. And so the very first protest that happened, it happened at City Hall. It was started by two teenage girls that went to school here in Irvine. And, when I heard of this, I saw the flyer. I showed up, some other council members showed up. And I actually found who the girls were, and they were just sitting on these lawn chairs, and they were like, oh my gosh, so many people are here. And the people that were there were people from Irvine. They were our families. There were little kids out there. There were, teenagers out there. And it was a great showing of community support. Yeah. And I think the only issue was that when the youth started to march towards the police department, without notifying the police that they were going to be marching there, and for me, I've been in so many protests, vigils, rallies, that I was like, okay, you guys can't just be moving around as you will. And so what happened was they started marching there, and I was following them to kind of get them to stop. Yeah. But when they got to the police department, of course, the police came out in their semi-riot gear. So they had their shields and they had their batons. And so the kids basically were like kind of shocked. They were like, oh my gosh, I mean, are they going to hit us? What is going to happen? Yeah. And so I was standing in between the protesters and the police, and I was telling the protesters, here, this is where you cannot cross. You can do whatever you want, but you need to stay here. They're not going to hurt you. Yeah. I'm like, hey, you know what? They're kids. Yes, they're riled up, but at the same time, they're not sure exactly what they're doing. And the police were like, you know what? We're just going to stand here. They can do whatever they want. We just don't want them to cross this line, which is very fair. And so I was there with them. And, the kids wanted to kneel. I knelt with them. And our mayor basically took that as me being anti-police, me being someone that wanted to incite violence in our city, and basically started making claims that I was the one that started the protests and that I was hiring agitators to come out into our city. And then, of course, it just went all downhill from there. She was quoted on social media saying, if people have issues in my city, that's what she calls it, that maybe they can find another city to live in. Wow. And that really just was a trigger statement for me. Like, you try to work as hard as you can to make the city for everyone. So everyone can live here, work here, play here, go to school here. And for someone to just say, hey, if you're not satisfied, go somewhere else.
Which we've heard that before, Farrah. Where have we heard that?
I think we hear it all the time.
We have heard that many a time by the fair and lovely people. We have heard this. Yes.
And so, for me, that was like the last straw. It was like, you just don't do that. And the wonderful thing that came out of our BLM protest, where I actually made connections with our Black and African American community members. So following the protest, I held a roundtable discussion that included our police chief and our assistant police chief. And we actually came up with action items that we wanted to work on. And one of them was expediting body cams. Another one was starting a speaker series with the police department with UCI's African American Studies program, and getting some speakers in there to talk about the realities that the Black community goes through. And in addition, we wanted to add a diversity, some diversity language in our policies. So all this good stuff is coming out of those roundtable discussions, and we've had 3 so far. But that's really what protesting is all about.
That's right.
People voice their concerns, and then it's our job as people that are in government to hear those concerns and take action to make things better. And instead of dividing our community, for me, it was more important to build our community, build those bridges if they were broken or not even there, and get that community's feeling going again. And, it's just unfortunate that she took a road where it was, that we don't have any issues in our city. There's nothing going on. There's nothing wrong. Why are these people here?
I think there's a word for them. I think they call them Republicans. I think there's a word for them. God, headache. God, I hate to say that word. I didn't get a headache. For me, whenever a leader, and whether it be on a local level or a federal level, whenever they come out and say, mine, this is mine, you lost everybody. You lost everybody. It's like, it's not yours, it's ours. Exactly. It is not Trump's White House. It is our White House. It is the taxpayers that have paid for that White House to be built. I mean, I know there's another night of the RNC happening, and I was listening to the commentary, and everybody's like, this is like unprecedented. Never in the history of the United States have we had a party that chooses the White House as its backdrop, right? Not following the pandemic order, not following the face mask, the 6 feet social distancing, like nothing. They are just disregarding all of it. And the reason they can do that is because, it's on federal property, and the district laws don't apply to the federal property. So that's why they're just getting to do whatever they want. And when I listen to somebody like Mayor Shea, I'm just like, oh, you went to the same school as that person. You come from that same school of thought. One of the things I want to read to everyone. What is it that she said that really pissed people off? She said, "I will not allow my city to become the location for expression of anger and hate against my residents and my stellar police force, who I stand behind 100%. She said, "I do not personally support displays that host profanity, comments of our police officers being racist, or promoting hostility." Right? I mean, that's just, that is so dismissive of just like not even wanting to hear the other side. I'm sure, this is one of the African-American community members that you met up with. She talked about her experience being pulled over by the cops in Irvine. She's based in Orange County. I'm trying to get her name. She's yes.
Holly Washington.
Holly Washington, yes. And she talked about her experience, how she's coming from work 2:00 in the morning and the cops pull her over, and they're not like, they don't tell her why they're pulling her over. They're like, is this your car? Where are you coming from? And what are you doing here? Like as if she doesn't belong there, as if it's so dismissive. Farrah, what, you mentioned some of the platforms that you talked to. Can you share with our audience what some of those platforms are that you are looking to reform and work on?
You mean directly with the police?
With the police, but you talked about climate change. You talked about
in general. I mean, we've got, first of all, we need to kind of navigate ourselves out of this pandemic, which is priority, and then following that, we're going to face some serious economic crises. And, we need to make sure that we have a plan in place. Right now, as soon as the pandemic started, one of the first things that I did was I brought together our business community, our school community, our healthcare community, our developers, and kind of met with them to say, okay, this is where we're headed. What are you guys doing? And what is it that you need from us as a city to make sure that we're kind of on the same page as we're moving along?
Yeah.
And So, that's the type of leadership we need in our city. Someone that's going to be forward thinking, that's going to be proactively thinking about what's next. And then what's next is us having a plan out. How are we exiting out of this pandemic? What are we going to do about our economic crisis? What are we doing for our residents and our small businesses? And at the same time, continuing with the sustainability of our environment, and making sure that we are openly communicating with our residents on issues that are coming up in their lives. Just being a voice for the community. It's so important for us not to separate ourselves so much that we are in our own bubble and not realizing that we have a variety of community members. We have some that are doing just fine, that are doing actually better than they were before. And we've got some that are on the brink of being evicted from their homes.
Yes.
And so it's our job to kind of look at all of those and balance it out so that we are able to help everyone as we navigate out of this crisis that we're in right now. And I don't see that coming from this leadership. It's great. It's a lot of fun being outside, handing out masks to community members, but that's not really doing the job.
Right.
And it's the hard issues that you have to do. Like for me, since the pandemic hit, I've held town halls for our small businesses, for our renters, for just mental health updates with NAMI, with our school board members, talking about what's happening with schools, talking about what's going on in our environment, even a fun one, gardening during the pandemic. So things that really mean something to our community and just staying in touch with them. And also since this pandemic started, I started doing a Facebook Live every Monday before our council meeting just to check in with the community. It's a wellness check-in. It's a review of our agenda, getting input from them, any questions from them. It's making sure that line of communication is open, that they know that they have someone that they can reach out to. And again, it's fighting for the right things.
Right.
I mean, why was I the one that fought to make sure that we mandated masks in our city? Why was I the one that fought to make sure that we had, we were getting funds to supply to our small businesses as grants? Why did I fight for rent relief program in our city? And so, these are things that you want your leadership to be doing. And at this point, with all the things that have happened, it was just like, if she's not going to do their job right, then maybe it's time for her to retire.
Yeah, I mean, she sounds like a person who is consistently putting the word I and my, and those are never good words to use when you're in a position of leadership. I wanted to actually ask you, so I'm in West Hollywood, and West Hollywood has very, very strict laws about protecting their renters, right? So how is it in Irvine? You mentioned that there have been some evictions that have taken place. So
we can't do any evictions right now during the pandemic. So we do have a resolution ban on evictions, rent increases, things like that. So while we're in this pandemic, that's not going to happen.
Got it. So the moratorium's in place.
Right.
Okay, which is great. So now you were talking about like renter relief. So is that something that it's on a state level, that the state is kind of stepping in and saying, hey, let us help you out with the rent? Like what kind of thing is happening with that?
Basically what happens is we're getting funds from the state and from the county, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're earmarked for certain things. Now the state funds that come in, we have to use towards anything COVID related. And so we can use it for PPE, we can use it for our own city business. But for me, it was very important after getting email after email of people struggling that we had some sort of a relief program for our renters.
Yeah.
And really what I was hoping for was a $5 million relief program. Our council ended up voting only on $2 million of it. And so it meant $1,000 towards rent relief for anyone that applied. And within the first day of us opening that application process, 1,800 people applied. And so you know that there is a need there. And if you look at Irvine, 1,000 really doesn't do much when your one-bedroom apartment is $2,300.
Wow.
And so for me, it was very important that we give something that would make a difference. But the council did not go in that direction. So I was happy with at least something going out for our renters to make sure that they were secure. But as we get out of this pandemic, a lot of them are not only going to be continuing with whatever their payments that they're making, but they're going to have to make up those months that they deferred. And, that's going to be a difficult time. And we need to make sure that we're not having evictions during those times and giving people a chance to be able to pay back not only their rent, but if we're able to get more funding from the state. I mean, we're waiting on the HEROES Act from the federal government that they're not voting on. But if they were to vote on that, that would bring us a lot of money to the local level where we can actually say, you know what, maybe we can pay off 1 month of your rent to help you.
Right.
I mean, we want to start looking forward on what are our opportunities of helping our community during this time.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I've had this conversation with some of the guests that have been on the podcast and my live streams. And, people always, there's this thinking that, oh, yeah, well, you have a year from after, to pay off this rent. I'm like, pay it off with what?
Yeah.
Paid off with what? Like, there's no real hiring going on. There are no real jobs out there that are higher paying jobs. If you're making like minimum wage, there's no way in freaking hell you're going to be able to pay all that debt that you've collected. You shouldn't have to choose between having a roof over you and your family's head and putting food on the table. Like, those should not be the choices in the richest country on the planet. Like, right? I mean, to me, it's just really disturbing when Jeff Bezos just announced today that he's worth $200 billion and he doesn't pay his fair share of taxes. While citizens like you and I, we pay our fair share of taxes, but somebody like him does not pay his fair share of taxes. And then the government turns around and says, well, we don't have any money. We don't have any money to give you for the HEROES Act. We don't have any money to give you, to add towards unemployment, where we can give you that extra $600 that could, keep you afloat for a bit. I mean, do you feel like eventually you wanna, once you run for mayor, like, do you have any ambitions of like running for Senate or something, running for Congress, to get up there on like that level, to be like, this is bullshit, like, taxing people, like, tax them?
Not at this point, no. I mean, I think I'm very comfortable at the local level right now. But like I said, I wasn't planning on running for mayor, and look what happened. So you never know, but I don't have any plans right now.
Okay. All right, Farrah, I'm keeping an eye on you. You said something to me, which was wonderful. You said that one of the I guess it was I think it was some sort of a training program in the world of politics, and Mayor London Breed was one of the people as part of the training program. Did we not have the
Emerge?
Yeah. Can you tell a little bit more about Emerge and what that is?
Absolutely. Emerge is basically a training program for women who want to run for office, and it's nationwide. And of course, I took the one that was in California. But they bring together not only elected officials that are women, but people in policy, people that are associated with fundraising, that are associated with the corporate side, and really walk you through what campaigning is like. It's getting you comfortable in your own skin and understanding who you are, so you can build that messaging that you need to get across to the voters. And it's, I recommend this program to just every woman that is interested in running. And I've been recommending people to it. In fact, one of my recommendees, Tammy Kim, is currently running for Irvine City Council. So shout out to her. So if you're voting in Irvine, please vote for Tammy Kim for City Council. She's also an Emerge alumni. And, I think of 2 other women that have gone through the program. I'm hoping to see their names sometime soon up on the ballots. But really, it's just to get you more comfortable with campaigning and understanding what campaigning is really like, because a lot of people don't understand how brutal it gets.
Yes.
It gets pretty cutthroat, and if you don't know how to work through it, it could be devastating for someone. So just knowing all of this before you get into it is so helpful.
I mean, I was talking to my brother about it, and he was just like, would you ever consider running for politics? I'm like, nah. He's like, why not? I'm like, I know I have a smart mouth, but Jesus, I don't know. I don't think I'm wired that way, Farrah. I'm not as calm as you are. I think I'll be going out like cussing people. Like, you were so calm in your response to Mayor Shea I'd be like cussing the bitch out. Like, sorry, Farrah. I would just be like, what? What'd you say to me? Like, for me, like the whole New Yorker would just come out, So I
Yeah.
think I should just avoid politics
Well,
altogether.
there's a lot of politicians that do that, so you wouldn't be alone.
I'll cut you. I'll cut you. Like, it's like
I
get in
think
that mode.
it's very important for me to bring that sense of, you know, importance to the job, knowing that you're a public servant above anything else. And so I think for that reason, I need to keep myself level headed because I know what my goals are. My goal is to serve the community, and it's not getting riled up in these, petty distractions, I would call them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. I absolutely 100% agree with you. I mean, just on a local level, politics can get so dirty. I can't imagine what it's like to run on a state or federal level. I mean, it's brutal. I
Yeah.
had Congresswoman Katie Hill,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
not last week, but the week before. And we had this whole conversation about, her kind of rise to the Congress and, revenge porn, how it like totally just ruined her career. And she is quite the powerful woman. I mean, I could never do what she does. I do my own thing. I could never do I could never do what you do, Farah. I don't know. I can't imagine doing what you do because I
There's
feel
reverse too. There's no way I could get up on a stage with a skit. No way. So I can't do what you do. You're good at what you do.
yeah, exactly. So we are all like wired in our own way to do the good things that we're intended to do. Um, we were just talking about police reformation, right? The fact that Miss Washington had to experience as an Irvine resident being pulled over by the cops. What is your kind of stance? You were talking about body cams. You were talking about having those conversations. Do you feel that the police department in Irvine is receptive of it?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is the difference between our police department and say, LA or anywhere else. I think our police department is very involved in community policing. It's being in partnership with the community, and we've seen that year after year. I mean, we haven't had an officer involved shooting since 2013, and when the hate that was it the 8 Count Wait campaign was being promoted, we did a review of all of our policies, and we met 7.5 out of the 8 policy review changes that were being asked for. And
Mhm.
so our department is definitely there, but that doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement. So Ms. Washington's experience is an experience that shouldn't happen to anyone else.
Yep.
And I think that's where the speaker series is going to come in, and officers will get a first-hand chance of not only hearing from the community, but also asking questions so they can improve on their procedures as they pull people over. And at the
Yep.
same time, we're looking at other things. We're looking at equity throughout our city.
Yeah.
Is the city, equitable across the diverse spectrum in housing and education and things like that? So a lot of good is coming out of it. So when people are out there talking about, if you are siding with the protesters and basically you're trying to defund the police, which by the way, defund the police doesn't even mean defund the police. It just means taking
That's right.
funds out that the police are currently handling and putting it into community or social services.
That's
So
right.
you have like a social worker showing up for a mental health issue or, things like that.
That's right.
So it's not even what it is, what it sounds like. But
Right.
at the same time, you have to be very particular with the department that you're dealing with. And for us, we do have a police department that is very receptive to the community and wants to improve. And so it's all about building those bridges. And,
Yeah.
and like I said, there's always room for improvement. And that's what we're doing right now. We don't have much issue with the department other than tweaking it a little bit. And so, that's the way we're going to move towards. And I think our police department understands that. They know who I am. They know where I stand, and they know that I support them. But at the same time, I'm there as well to make sure that the community feels that they are supported as the same way. And
Right.
so, it's unfortunate that the mayor wants to paint me in one way without realizing all the good that's coming out of these discussions that we're having.
I mean, I think, I mean, what percentage of Irvine is Asian, South Asian, white, black? Would you have kind of those numbers kind of on top of your head?
Just generally, I think since the last census, we were at about 45% API and about 1.2% Black.
1.2% black. And when you say API, that's Asian Pacific, and that's South Asians, right?
Yes.
40%. Wow, that's a pretty
45.
45%. Wow, that's a pretty big number.
It should be a lot higher come this 2020 census.
Wow, that's pretty that's pretty significant. I know that you're bid for running for mayor. So now, then this whole pandemic world, are you guys going to have a debate? Is that how it's going to go down, or how does it go?
Well, we had our first candidate forum. We really don't do debates in our city, so we do have candidate forums. And we had our first one, I think it was a week and a half ago, but it was all virtual. So, you know, we were there, the audience was there, and we all got our chance to speak. We were asked questions all through Zoom. So,
Wow.
I think that's what we're going to see moving forward is candidate forums that are going to be virtual, because it's just not safe to be holding them in public and expecting the public to show up.
Of course. How did the forum go? How was the forum, like, what was the reception?
It was good. I mean, it wasn't, it's kind of hard to say, because in forums you get asked a question and everyone seems to have the same answer.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, do you support this? And you're like, oh yeah, of course I support this. But I think the difference in that forum was the experience. So yeah, you could support something, but what have you done for it?
Sure.
And for me, every answer meant, let me list to you exactly what I've done in the past 18 months.
Yeah.
Not that I'm championing something or I'm supporting something. I've actually done the work for it.
That's right. How long has Mayor Shea been in power?
I think off and on, she's been on for 20-something years.
Wow. Okay. All right. And now she's not gonna like this. So I was reading that Mayor Christina Shea, I'm not even gonna say if, I'm gonna say once she gets unseated come November, you will be the first Democrat to hold the mayor's office since 2012 in Irvine. Is that true?
That's right.
That's amazing. So that it's just gonna go blue.
It's gonna go blue. That's what our goal is.
I love that. I love it. How has the support been? I mean, I know the South Asian communities there. How has been the support from the, non-ethnic people?
It's been great. I mean, like I said, I have great relationships with our community members here. It's my support. I announced on June 15th, and by June 30th, which was the first financial filing deadline that everyone kind of looks at to see where you are, I outraised our current mayor 30-1.
Wow.
In that period, she raised $1,400 and I raised $43,000.
Oh my God, that's wonderful.
A very diverse community. It didn't matter what background you had. It really, I think my support, even that's the reason why I came in first in 2018 out of 12 candidates. Mm-hmm. It's because I do the work. It's because I'm getting that message out there and people see it. So I think the ones that are able to understand that, there's quality when you have someone that's actually going to do what they say, they have been very supportive. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. Have you seen the musical? Did you see Hamilton, the movie, the musical on Disney? Did you see it?
I did. Yeah.
It's like he has this great line in there. He says, immigrants, they get the job done. And every time that comes on, and every time I see somebody like you, I see even myself, I see somebody like Alisa Jad, and I'm like, yeah, immigrants, we get the job done any time. I mean, and just like you said, right? You're like, I put in the work. It's not just talk. I put in the work. Exactly. So what has been has Mayor Shea been coming at you with like some other kind of attacks? What has been happening?
I mean, I hear it from people. They'll call me up. I actually had a mayor from a neighboring city reach out to me and share some things. And you know, it's all for me. I think our city is ready for the next technological advancement. I'm looking at new technology to bring into our city so that we can cut down our costs and generate more revenue and really be the global city that we were meant to be. And so, you know, I initiated the Community Choice Energy Program in our city that we're currently filing for. And, you know, the entire program itself is about $10 million that we as a city loan to ourselves, and it gets repaid back. But she's going around telling other mayors that they're going to have to pitch in anywhere from 13 to $16 million each. And I'm like, wait, that's not true. And so, you know, it's hard. She's constantly countering things that I'm doing. So I don't know if you saw, but there was a student protest from UCI students that actually ended up going to her home, outside her home.
Oh.
And when I found out about that, I was the only council member that actually posted on social media that, hey, you know what, I get it, you're upset, she's not listening to you, but you know what, showing up at someone's home is not okay. That's like their safe sanctuary, they have family there. Yep. It's just not okay. I mean, and I put that out there, and for her to then go around and say, oh, she's sending those protesters to my home. And I was like,
what?
I've got a lot of work to do. Trust me, I don't have time to call people up and ask them to go to your home and protest.
Oh, wow. She's playing dirty.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's hurtful because you're like, you know, I stood up for you just back then. And now you're coming back at me and saying, no, you're the one that sent those protesters. Well, you know, she had a chance to make a difference when they showed up at her home. Yeah. And instead, you know, her statements again were, you know, why don't you go and get a job at Amazon? She's quoted saying that, telling students that couldn't pay their rent to go get a job at Amazon. And I'm like, okay, again, you're not getting it.
Wow. I mean, talk about being out of touch.
Yeah.
It's like you are like, you know, you are like 4G and she is like, you know, dial up DSL.
It's an interesting way of putting it.
I'm being nice when I say that. I can make a lot horrific on for her mostly. Oh my God. You stood up for this woman and then she's like, you sent the protesters to her?
Yep.
She's scared. She sounds scared to me, Farrah.
I don't know. It is very disappointing, you know, to hear things that are just out like they're just lies.
Right.
Remember, you know, back when I was first running, who was it that said this to me? They were like, you start talking negatively about your opponent when you run out of good things to say about yourself. And I was like, interesting. Because I mean, if you wanted, Mona, I could talk to you for 5 hours about all the things that I want to do for our city, without even mentioning my opponent. But it's hard because I'm trying to keep a very positive campaign and not go negative. Of course, I'm going to defend myself when lies are being spread, but at the same time, I'm not out there attacking anyone. And I think you know, that's just a very low blow.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you know, and it's just like you said, right? You have more positive, that there's work that needs to be done rather than trying to sling mud at somebody. It's like, no, these are the things that need to be handled and taken care of. And that's where the work and the focus is, you know? You know, one thing, Farrah, about you that I did not know, I was reading your bio and it really touched me, is that you foster kids. And how long have you been fostering kids?
It's been about maybe 6 to 7 years now. I don't have any right now, but it's just such a rewarding experience. And there's such a need for foster families in Orange County. Right now, if you look at how many kids are in group homes, it's just astonishing. And just the difference that you can make in a child's life just for whatever amount of time that they're with you is huge.
Yes. Yeah. How many kids have you fostered thus far?
We've gone through 4.
Oh, wow. Like boys, girls?
You know, we started this hoping to maybe get a girl in, but it's been all boys.
Really? Why is that, you think?
I don't know. You know, I think we were willing to take boys At a certain age as well, we were willing to take teenagers, where that a lot of times families don't want to take that risk.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was important to have a wide range of kids that we would take in. And so we usually ended up with the boys that were in like preteen or early teen.
Yeah. So, and when you foster, so I'm very big on fostering and adoption. I am like, one of my dreams is that, to adopt kids, like two kids, like that's like my, one of my dreams. And when I heard about like you fostering and stuff, I mean, given you're a small business owner, you're a councilwoman, now you're running for mayor, and then you're fostering kids. I mean, that's a lot. And then you have two kids of your own.
So, I mean, basically with fostering, if you have your own kids, it's not a lot more work. It's basically you just spreading your love to one or two more kids in the home.
Yeah.
Making sure they have food to eat, making sure that they're going out and enjoying the outdoors with you. They're experiencing what a healthy family lifestyle is. Understanding that there are rules and limits, and understanding how to socialize. I'll share with you the boys that I had, the most recent ones, came from an abusive home. And for the first time when they came to my home, I reached out to them and they kind of shuddered back. They didn't want me touching them. And when they left my home, they were bouncing off the walls. They were like boys. They were, able to communicate with people. They were able to socialize and be healthy kids. And so really, that's really the goal of fostering, is making sure that by the time they're either ready to be reunited with family or with relatives or be adopted, that you've gotten them to a point where they're functioning human beings, and they feel that they have self-worth.
Farrah, would you say that kindness is the most underestimated virtue among humans?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think
But
I think kindness a lot.
people think kindness equates to weakness,
Mhm.
and it doesn't. It's a good
It's the opposite, actually. It's the opposite.
It strengthens you.
Yeah, it's totally the opposite. So when you foster these kids, like, how long do they stay with you, and do they go back to their families? Do they go back into the system? How does it work most of the time?
So the first boys that we had actually got reunited with their mom. So she was a single mom that was struggling, got back on her feet. She had some health issues, but when she was ready to take them back, there was a reunification process. And so I had them for about maybe 2.5 years. The second set I had, there were also siblings, two boys. We had for, I think it was 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. They lived with you for 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be so, like, it's so beautiful, but you also get attached to these kids.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was bawling every time they leave. So
I can't.
they become a part of your life.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything together. But at the end of the day, you also realize that this is the job that you signed on to. So
yeah. So and the last couple, the kids that you were fostering, did they go back to their parents? Like, what happened to them?
No, they actually got adopted by another family.
Right, because they came from an abusive family. Two brothers.
Yeah.
Fascinating. That's like, I think whenever I hear about physical abuse, and I've talked about it, I talk about it a great deal, very openly. I grew up in a very domestic, violent household. We grew up with like a ton of violence. My parents fought all the time, and my dad was very physically abusive towards me. My mom was very physically abusive towards me, but I used to beat the hell out of my mom. And when I hear about kids that they go through physical abuse and where they have to be removed, it's just something that's like very near and dear to my heart. So when these kids were with you, and like the fact that you were like going in and trying to hug them, and they were just like no, because did they eventually, I mean, they lived with you for 4 years, did they eventually just kind of open up and were just like, yeah, you're like my foster mom, I'm gonna hug you?
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful. I think it was maybe 4 months into us fostering them, when everyone came up to me and said, is it okay if I call you mom? And I think I just broke down right there, and I was like, of course you can call me mom. It's you just see the transitioning happen right in front of you.
Right.
And it's just so wonderful. And so for me, it's always important to give these kids. I mean, that's all they really need is a little bit of kindness and love,
That's right.
and that they blossom. I mean, there's people that are like, oh, kids don't do well in school. I'll tell you, you give kids a little bit of love and a safety net, and they will thrive.
That's right.
I mean, my foster kids were like in the Irvine. They came from Anaheim, and they were in the Irvine schools, and they're getting straight A's. And so, people were like, oh my gosh, after everything that they've gone through, they're just thriving. And it really has to do with you just being there for their support.
Yes.
To know that they're worth it.
I mean, Farrah, I must confess, though, that is like the most desi mom thing you could have done is for them to get straight A's. I must confess.
Gotta get straight A's.
You're like, look, I love you. I'm going to care for you, but you better
come home with B.
You better come home with that A, baby. You better come home with that A. That is like the most desi mom move you could have made on there.
Yeah.
Now, these kids, are they, what ethnicity are they? Are they, are they ethnic kids? Are they white kids? What are they?
So the first two that we had were Somalian.
Oh,
and the second two that we had were half Jamaican, half Filipino.
Oh, wow. Wow. Half Jamaican. How was that for them? And how was it for you when you're just like, are you cooking meals of their, of kind of their ethnic background? Just be like,
loving the food that we had, because we always have like all variety of food at home. It's never the same. It's never all desi, because I'm not a big desi food fan. So I need variety. Sorry.
You hurt my heart.
Sorry.
Oh.
But what was really funny is the older boy, there was international night at the school.
Yeah.
And so he told his teacher, he's like, I'm Jamaican and Filipino. She said, well, pick one that you want to represent. And he said, okay, I'll represent Filipino. And he comes home and he goes, you're going to make adobo for me. And I'm like, I'm going to what? My friends, and I'm like, they were Filipino. And I'm like, help me. I need to make adobo for him. And sharing their recipes and helping me find the ingredients. And I made it, and he was so happy that, that we took it out there to their international night, and he shared it with his friends, and everyone liked it. And he was like, you did a great job. And I'm like, thank you. I was so scared. Little things like that make a huge difference.
Yes. What is adobo?
It's like a chicken curry of some sort.
Okay.
It's a very different flavor. But I mean, I don't even know the recipe right now. It's been like 5 years or something that I made it. But it was just so much fun to do.
Oh, that is just such a sweet story. That is so touching. Do the kids ever go, hey, teach me, like, oh, I like desi food, or teach me how to make?
I love desi food. I mean, you bring up nihari, and they were like, oh, nihari tonight, nihari. And I'm like, really?
I need to go eat some desi food after this conversation. Now, my mouth is like salivating. I live on. For the folks listening who don't know what nihari is, let me like rock your world, okay? Nihari is this brilliant beef stew. Would you say? It's like and we cook that beef to a point. I'm sorry, we're meat eaters.
That's why I don't like it. I'm not a meat eater.
Oh, there it is. Are you vegan or vegetarian?
I'm on the vegan track, so I'm working really hard to stay there.
Got it. Wow. That's that vegan lifestyle is a pretty, that's a commitment. That is a commitment, that whole vegan life. So that makes sense. So that's why you don't eat the nihari and stuff like that. That makes you're just missing out. That's all I'm gonna say. Sorry.
Plenty of years. So I'm like, I'm okay now.
Yeah, that's right. You got it in your system. Now, Farrah, the small business that you and your husband own is a catering business, is it not?
Yeah. And
it's catering desi food, right? No? You guys
cater to the television and movie studios with whatever meals that they want.
I see. Got it. Yeah, your husband and I had a really lovely conversation. That where I met him, where I met you, and I came to the gathering, and he was just like, "Yeah, this is what we do. We have a catering." I was like, "Oh, this is so fantastic." And he's lovely. He's from Karachi, isn't he? Or where is he from?
No, he's not. He's actually, his family background is from Jalandhar
Oh wow. Okay.
in India, and he was actually, I think he was, his family is in, it's mixed. He's got family in Multan and in Lahore, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fabulous. Well, I know that you have to also run off soon, so I'm not gonna keep you for too long because you have to run off. But so what your campaign is on. Come November, people are gonna come out and in droves and vote for you.
Actually, it's in November because everyone's voting by mail, so their ballots will start coming in October 5th.
That's
So
very
vote
true.
early.
Got it. And Farrah, what I mean, do you have any kind of words you want to kind of share, or say like where people can follow you and where we can go on and support you? Please share that information.
Absolutely. So you can learn a lot more about me on farrahforirvine.com, and that's FARRAH. And my policy statements are there. A little bit about my background is there. You can donate there. You can sign up to volunteer there. And any way you want to help, just reach out to us. And like I said, I'm very accessible, not only as a council member, but in the campaign as well. Reach out and we can connect you on things that you want to work on.
This is amazing. I want to ask you one last thing, Farrah, and then I'm gonna let you go. The Emerge program that you were talking about, is that something that you have to pay to be a part of, or is that kind of paid by the government? How does that work?
It's basically you kind of it teaches you fundraising. So you fundraise to get yourself through the program.
Oh wow. Wow, you fundraise yourself to get yourself through the program.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Can I fundraise for a new wardrobe because this pandemic body is not quite working out? Can we?
I think you do that through the GoFundMe sites.
You can do it. Hi, this is a GoFundMe because I can't fit in my clothes anymore because of the friggin' pandemic. This is so sad. Farrah, always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm really rooting for you, and I would love to next time I want to talk to you that you're gonna be like the mayor of Irvine, and I'll be like, see, I told you she was gonna be the mayor.
Thank you, Mona. It's always a pleasure seeing you, and you're just an exceptional woman. Really, so glad to know you.
You're so touching. You are. Well, the feeling is absolutely mutual. So thank you so much. Thank you. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye. That was the wonderful and amazing Farrah Khan. I hope you guys caught that. That was such a lovely and such a great conversation. So, like Farrah said, if you are in Orange County or in Irvine, please do vote for my friend Farrah because she is truly an exceptional, inclusive, kind, loving, just a great leader. She's done a wonderful job being the Councilwoman of Irvine, and I'm sure she's going to do a great job being the mayor of Irvine. So please do. You can go on Farrah of Irvine, which is FARRAH for Irvine.com. You can sign up. You can volunteer. You can vote early. We're going to keep this short today, you guys, because I want to go out and take a walk. But this was lovely. We will be back tomorrow, 6:15 Pacific, with the mayor of Artesia, which is a city here in LA-ish. Yeah, in LA. And that I wanna bring him on. And he's also a fellow Pakistani. He also made history by becoming the first Pakistani mayor of Artesia. So a lot of history-setting people here, and I'm very proud to bring them on and talk about their journey and talk about their ambitions. So if you haven't followed me on YouTube, please do. You can also check out my Minority Reports podcast and digital series playlist there. I have tons of interviews that I did with Margaret Cho. I've done interviews with Congresswoman Katie Hill. I've done interviews with a ton of other comedians and actors and change makers. So please do go check it out. Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. I will see you guys tomorrow, 6:15 Pacific. Don't miss it. Have a good night.